From the chapter entitled The Baptism, from the 13th, by Mark Glinski-Grant. I believe the expression is frog-marched. Like a feeble child, I was dragged out of the bookshop and then further along the high street. Managing to look back briefly, I saw the proprietor standing outside his shop and waving me a cheery goodbye, his stony-faced assistant standing by his side. A minute or two later, the two soldiers turned me into a narrow passage between two shops and towards the entrance of a church with its towering steeple. Bizarrely, I noticed a sign with the severe admonition, "Do not permit your dog to foul this consecrated ground," which made me feel like vomiting. Hauled towards the right, I saw our acquaintance Merk standing with a book at the head of an open grave and looking for all the world like an inappropriately dressed priest at a funeral. My eyes then took in the sight of an oversized open coffin lying on a path to the side. It is not an experience I would wish on my worst enemy, to stand before an open coffin in the power of two burly soldiers and to realize with unspoken horror that it is meant for you. I heard a piercing scream that was mine, and yet not mine. An instant after being thrown in, darkness enveloped me, and then the sound of hammered nails. The hope that we all unknowingly carry with us every moment of the day vanished, like the sound that we only become aware of when it ceases. That life should end like this! I should have known not to trust weirdos, but my advice had come to me too late. The coffin moved, and my non-existent hope became even more non-existent as I felt myself unsteadily descending. Then the sound, inches from my face, of earth being thrown down, buried alive like some martyr or criminal of old. Could the horror be any worse? Unfortunately it could. Something moved at my feet. I could only feel and not see it in the pitch black. My body shook in spasms as I imagined my fate was to be eaten alive by some monstrous animal or fiend. At that moment I was no heroic victim suffering horrific injustice, but the most feeble of wretches. Not many days before I had seen death as a romantic escape from life's weariness. Yet now I discovered in my attachment to life that I would have promised anything to survive. I could even have sacrificed my own mother, if that is what it took. Unable to move, and too cowardly to fight it, I let the creature scramble over me while I screamed unheard. Then I felt a lick on my face. Yuck! Not being able to wash away the slime seemed an added horror. I felt a warm, furry head next to mine, and realized I was with a dog. A dog! So, to comfort me in death, they had given me a dog to die with. I laughed and cried at the same time. Believe me, to die in the company of a dog is 1,000 times better than dying alone. The width of the oversized coffin allowed my last friend on earth to lie beside me and nestle its head on my shoulder. Poor wretch! I felt its tail wagging against my leg, unaware that it too would soon be no more. But what a terrible way to die! To gradually starve, die of thirst, or be suffocated to death. I then realized that our time would indeed be short. The air already felt thick and oppressive. In such a situation, time vanishes and becomes meaningless. Now, after having been willing to sacrifice anything, including my own mother, to save my skin, I told her with tears that I loved her. I forgave my vanished father 1,000 times over. I begged my sister forgiveness for all the pain I had caused her. I thanked them for all they had done for me and apologized endlessly for letting them down. Nothing that had happened in my life seemed significant. Only love for my family would remain at the end. Trance-like and struggling to breathe, I then experienced what I had only read about in the banned alternative writings my father had collected. My life was suddenly displayed to me in colours far more vivid than is usual in day-to-day existence. And yet I experienced simultaneously each of life's almost infinite events in the majestic panorama that now unfolded before me. I know it makes no sense and can scarcely be described. From the most trivial happening to the noblest of my few noble deeds, all was revealed in hideously blinding detail. I felt agonizing shame that I had sacrificed so little for my fellow human being. I knew instinctively that this was the moment of my passage into a life-filled death. Far from being filled with terror, my inner turmoil was replaced by an all-embracing peace. I now knew all would be well, and I experienced my long-forgotten true self. How could I have forgotten? How could I ever have not known myself? For a long, timeless moment, I was the happiest I had ever been. Yet just as quickly the panorama vanished, and I felt the coffin rising. Was I now to be saved from a transforming death? I felt irrational anger that I might be rescued against my will. The coffin lid was wrenched open, and cold and heartless daylight blinded me. I was back in the land of the living dead, a corpse among corpses. As my eyes adjusted to the light, my first sight was of a cocker spaniel pooing on a grave.